the broadcast.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you are in the world. One of those will sound just about right.
Welcome to this week's webinar, folks. Filling in for Don Cook this week, I'm Josh Lane. Hopefully one of your account managers, depending on who's here in the area. And we've been joined by Eric Camuli, a familiar face, head of customer success here for us at 7 Signal. Eric, how you feel today?
I'm doing really good. I feel really good. Are we allowed to be sitting this close to one another?
We are. I've got my vaccination. Have you got yours?
I have, and we would recommend that all of you do too.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So we're really excited to be here today to talk to you about this amazing topic. There's a lot of confusion going on out there today. But before we get into home Wi-Fi routers and understanding all of that stuff, Josh, I'd like for you to maybe go through some announcements and some initial stuff. So let's take it away.
Yeah, please set me up. So for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, you'll be able to view all of our webinars over the last couple months or years here, I suppose, at 7 Signal on our YouTube channel. So feel free to go ahead, like and subscribe to our channel, and you'll be up to the latest with what we've put out over the last few years. Also, if you know, or maybe you don't, our webinars do count for CWNP continued education credits. So that's why we ask for your business email, and if you want the credits or the certification for that, feel free to reach out to myself or Don Cook. Recently, over the last year, we put out a new IDC ROI report. You can get that by heading over to the link there. Today, we won't be doing much of a tour of the interface or overview of the product, so lucky you, but you can get your fix on Friday at our product tours. Every Friday is at noon, led by Eric Camuli himself.
There you go.
If you're partial to these dulcet tones that you'll be getting a lot today, Eric puts on our product tour then. And lastly, we just launched our own digital experience podcast here from 7 Signal.
So
find us on your podcast provider now and subscribe to that as well. And what's coming down in the future, we're really excited to be back in person, hoping to kind of get in front of you guys, shake some hands. It's been a while. So we'll be in HIMSS next month, August, what does it say, 9th to 13th in Las Vegas. Not only that, the following month, we'll be at the Gartner Symposium in October. That's not the following month.
Not quite.
There's September in between there. In October, we'll be at Gartner Symposium. And then in November, it was just announced, Wi-Fi Now is having their event in Miami, and we are one of the event sponsors of that. So we'll be there shaking hands as well. So
That's
look
right.
forward to seeing you guys there.
Looking forward to,
Getting
pressing the flesh.
Yeah,
Getting close. All right.
So I think before we get into things today, Eric, we're going to do a little bit of trivia, keep folks guessing.
All right,
that's why a lot of people come.
Here we go, guys. Here's our first poll question. Are you ready? Okay, this is your opportunity to win official merchandise by 7 Signal, and I'm going to launch our first poll. So away we go. Here we go. I'm going to launch it right now. And there we go. The poll is open. The poll is open. So you can see what the question is. What is the metric commonly used to measure signal strength? All right, is anybody coming through? Are they answering? I'm seeing some answers. Okay, we've got most of the people who have voted. Let's close the poll and see what happened. All right, well, how did we do? I think we did pretty well. That was kind of an easy one, don't you think, Josh?
Yeah, that was a layup to start.
That was a layup to start. DBM. DBM is the answer. Okay, so now on to our next trivia question. Here we go. Here, I'm going to read it first. What modulation technique was introduced with 802.11a? Launch. Here you go, guys. What modulation technique was introduced with 802.11a? Come on, you can do it. And away we go. Wow, we've got a lot of people voting. Really happy to see you guys participating on this fine morning. All right, here we go. We're going to close it up. See what we got. Yeah, we got 80% voted. Really like to see your participation here. Good job, guys. And here we have it. So let's share the results. And what do we have? Oh, it looks like we've got the right answer. OFDM, very important modulation scheme. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today and how important it is when selecting a home router. And it looks like we've got one more poll. One more poll. Do we? Or is that it? Let's hide that guy. And here we go. And okay, we do. We have one more question. Here we go, guys. And let's launch this guy. And Josh, would you like to read the question for us real quick?
Yeah, when would you select an external access point antenna instead of an internal access point antenna?
Wow, that's a very good question.
That's a good question.
So here we go. Get your votes in. This is your opportunity to shine. All right. These are always a good time.
I think so.
All right, here we go. I'm going to close the poll now that we have 75% participation. Close. And now let's share the poll results. And look at that.
We have a smart group on the line today.
Yeah, we sure do. 91% got the answer correct.
That's right.
Nice job. All right, so with that, away we go. We're going to get right into our content, guys. So enjoy the show. Let's hide this. And if you are a winner, then we'll tell Don Cook to send you some swag.
Right. That's right.
Okay, so here's our topic, guys. Don't recommend a home router until you watch this webinar. Now, the reason why is because with all of the work from home that we have, people, they've been, maybe asking you, can you help me? I don't know what kind of equipment I have in my house. And short of you going out and buying a home router, a new one, or putting an access point in everybody's home, you may be asked this question and you want to be able to give some recommendations. In order to properly answer this question, guys, we need to kind of talk about some basics of Wi-Fi, and then we'll actually go shopping and we'll take a look at some routers together. Okay, so the first thing that I want to discuss is before you make any decision, you really need to understand what your computer's capabilities are. All right, this is absolutely critical. Not all computers are the same. So you take stock. What kind of computer? And what I would say is this, is that when it comes to the computer's capabilities, one of the most important things that is not published is how many spatial streams. Okay, and so if you're out there and you're listening and you agree with that, then you can kind of put an amen in the chat, because finding out the number of spatial streams that a device has is actually kind of difficult for some reason. So you can see these two computers that are on the screen here. They're both Wi-Fi 6, and as you guys know, Wi-Fi 6, that's the latest and greatest standard, 802.11ax. It's just a new name for AX. And most Windows computers, like what you see this Lenovo example on your left, that's a 2x2 device, 2 spatial streams, 2 antennas for input and 2 for output. Most MacBooks are 3x3 devices. Okay, and again, these are not easily found when you're doing your research with regards to your computer. So you need to dig and you need to look more closely. Now you're saying to yourself, okay, well, if it's so important, Eric, then why don't they publish it? Josh, I just don't know.
Me either.
Now let's talk about spatial streams for a second here, because it is what we call a force multiplier in Wi-Fi, a force multiplier. The ability to send and receive using multiple antennas at the same time. Look at the picture on the screen here, if you will. 1x1 MIMO, basically one input, one transmit, one receive antenna. That's it. Okay, so you can just use one stream at a time. But if you have a 2x2 device, look in the corner here, Josh. If you have a 2x2 device, that means that you can transmit on 2 antennas simultaneously, or receive on 2 antennas simultaneously, basically doubling the ability to go fast. Okay. Now over here you can see, now remember we were saying most Windows computers, most Windows laptops are 2x2. Macs, you might be saying, why are MacBooks so much faster? Well, it's because most of them are 3x3. Okay, and as you can see here on my little picture, 3x3 means that you can simultaneously transmit using 3 antennas and simultaneously receive using 3 antennas. Again, it's a force multiplier. All right, now, in order to prove my point, I'm going to take you on a little journey to an awesome website, mcsindex.com. And I'll tell you what, Josh, this is one of the most awesome websites out there. And I invite everybody on the line today to get familiar with it.
I've got it bookmarked. I think everybody here should as well, right?
You're darn right. So let me illustrate what I'm talking about here. Okay, spatial stream column. You see that right here, spatial streams 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so if you have a 1x1, 1 spatial stream device, okay, on a 20 megahertz wide channel, This is the data rate, the max data rate that you can achieve, 86.7 megabits per second. Now that's just theoretical. Realistically, in my book, what I do is I typically cut that in half in order to come up with about how fast you should be able to go, because there's just so much overhead in Wi-Fi, and that's why I do that. It's just a poor man's calculation. Okay. Now look at this, Josh. Check this out. You see the 2 spatial streams? Okay. Look what I circled. This is what the data rate, the max data rate can be if you have a 2-stream device. Now, I'm no genius, but what is 86.7 times 2?
173.3.
That's right.
All right.
Isn't that amazing?
That is incredible.
You literally
Twice
doubled
as
the
fast,
yeah,
huh?
you literally doubled the ability to go fast. Okay, now what if you have a MacBook Pro? If you have a MacBook Pro, that is a 3-stream device. Oh my gosh, 260. Josh, again, I'm no genius here, but what is 86.7 times 3?
More than double. That much is for sure.
It's triple.
That's true.
Okay, it's 260 megabits per second. And you are literally tripling the ability to go fast when you have a 3-stream device. So I want to make that clear to everybody out there. Okay, the number of spatial streams in your computer have a direct correlation to how fast you can even go to begin with before we even choose a router. Okay, so that is really important. All right, now, what's your channel plan? We were just talking about a 20 megahertz wide channel. All right, the width of the channel is also what we would consider a force multiplier in Wi-Fi. Okay, if you go from 20 to a 40 megahertz wide channel, you are literally doubling the ability to go fast. If you go from a 40 to an 80 megahertz wide channel, or when you go from 20 to 80 megahertz wide channel, you are literally quadrupling the ability to go fast. And when you buy a home router out there, they're usually always quoting the speed of the router using the widest channel possible. So you got to be careful about that. All right, let's go back to the screen here and take a close look. All right, so again, we've got our Lenovo on the left, and that's a 2x2 device. And we've got our MacBook Pro on the right, and that's a 3x3 device. And they're both 802.11ax protocol or Wi-Fi 6. So what does this mean in terms of capabilities and speed when you match it up against the different channel widths that are available to you? Okay, well, if you used a 160 megahertz wide channel, then the maximum speed that you would be able to go is 2,402 megabits per second. And again, we usually cut that in half, and that would be like a gigabit connection. But the point here is that that is on a 160 megabit or megahertz wide channel. Now, Josh, do you know anybody who uses a 160 megahertz wide channel?
I don't know that I've ever seen it here.
I don't think I've ever seen it either, maybe in like a laboratory somewhere,
Yeah,
but
right.
This is sparsely used. Okay, now here's the unfortunate part, is that when they advertise routers in the store, again, they're always advertising them as going the maximum achievable speed using a 160 megahertz wide channel, and that is a little misleading. So let's continue down the road here. So on a 160 megahertz wide channel, these are the speeds that you can theoretically achieve. Again, I cut these in half in order to come up with more of what reality might be. On an 80 megahertz wide channel, you can see the Lenovo can achieve a data rate of 1,201 megabits per second, whereas the MacBook, 1,802. On a 40 megahertz wide channel, okay, 574 megabits per second data rate, as opposed to an 860. And then finally, if you are on a 20 megahertz wide channel, the skinniest channel, then you can achieve a data rate of 287 megabits per second. Again, this is using the highest modulation scheme. Okay, and also, so that's like the cleanest channel that you can get, the widest channel, and using both streams. And then over here on MacBook, 430 megabits per second. Okay, so it's really important to know this information, and I got all of this information from mcsindex.com. I look up how many spatial streams I have, and I just go over, okay, if I'm on a 20 megahertz wide channel, great. If I'm on a 40 megahertz wide channel, how fast can I theoretically go? And it's important to know what the capabilities are. and how they match up to what your channel plan is. So how do you change the channel width? You would do that in your router. And if you log into any router that you have, you should be able to select the channel width. Okay, and I'll tell you what, a lot of them these days, Josh, when you get it from like around here, our cable company is Spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your cable company, by the way?
Wide Open West.
Oh, you get Wide Open West?
I do.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, so when you get a router from them, it's typically going to be pre-configured for 80 megahertz wide channels. Okay, 80 megahertz wide channels. So even though your router is probably being advertised as being able to, for instance, go, 2 megabits or 2 gigabits or 3 gigabits per second, realistically, you're going to be using it on an 80 megahertz wide channel. And so immediately you can see on the screen here how your data rate is going to be cut down to size.
Our friend Anders on the line mentioned the only time that it's appropriate to use that is when you're out by yourself in the wilderness. That's the only time he knows.
That's right.
To use 160 megahertz.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, you're out there in the wilderness, and the reason why, just to give some clarification to those out there who don't know, is that when you bond a huge channel like that, you are now cutting down on the overall number of non-overlapping channels that are available on the spectrum. And the reason why it's Andrew is saying it's you better be by yourself is because if you bond a channel that big, you are undoubtedly going to be overlapping and interfering with somebody else that's out there.
And you don't want to be that guy.
No, you don't want to be that guy who interferes.
That's right.
All right, here's another really important question, guys. What are you doing? What are you doing? Josh, did you know that, if you're at home and you're watching Netflix, that you basically only need about 5 megabits of throughput in order to enjoy your favorite shows?
I did not know that, no.
Yeah, that's it, just 5 megabits per second. And if you're a gamer, a hardcore gamer, are you a gamer?
Not hardcore.
Okay. If you were a gamer, realistically, if you're doing online gaming, you only need about 5 megabits per second of throughput in order to enjoy your games. Did you know that, Josh?
I didn't, no.
Yeah. I know a lot of people, they're under the impression that you need hundreds of megabits per second of speed in order to achieve just some of the simplest things that you do around your house, but it's not the case at all. It is not the case at all. When it comes to streaming, like Netflix and stuff, actually the workhorse is your set-top box, quite frankly. Okay, because it's doing all of the buffering in there. So you don't need a lot in terms of megabits per second, but you do need a good set-top box, an Apple TV or a Roku that's got enough space in it to do the nice buffering that you want it to do, like 32 gigabyte, 64 gigabyte is really where you should be on those. Okay, now here's another really important point. Who else is doing it in the house? When you listen to these commercials, everyone, they're always saying the same thing. You can get 400 megabits per second, enough bandwidth for everybody in your home to enjoy the internet. I personally think that this is a little bit misleading. I feel misled. Now, let me tell you why. So you see this nice family here, and they've all got their devices, and they're having a good time. I really like the sticker that this guy has on his computer.
That guy gets it, doesn't he?
Sure does. You've got everybody in the household here using the internet, but you know what? They're not using it simultaneously. Did you know that the way that the 802.11 protocol works is realistically all of these people here are kind of sharing the same channel, and therefore, they're not sharing the same channel, they're actually using the channel one at a time, okay, and almost like in round robin fashion. So the little kid, he's using the router and the internet, and then this guy, dad, and then it's mom, and then they go around again and again and again. They're all kind of interacting with the radio independently one at a time. They're not all using it simultaneously.
The same lane on the highway?
The same lane on the highway. That's right.
For all of our seasoned webinar viewers, I think that was brought up last week on our Wi-Fi 101.
That's right. There's only one lane on the highway. There's only one channel. They might all be using channel 36 on 5 gigahertz. There's only one lane on the highway, and they've all got to, kind of go one after the other in bumper to bumper fashion.
Rush hour.
That's right. Now, so then you're saying to yourself, well, then come on, Eric. I mean, isn't it good to then, what is the point if I only need 5 megabits per second in order to do these certain tasks? Then why do I need 100, 200, 500 megabits per second? I'll tell you what, this is, I mean, if you're going to be uploading and downloading huge files for business, then yeah, maybe you want to be able to do that in just seconds. Okay, so I would highly recommend that you get a nice, big, strong, robust connection in order to do those things. The other thing that I would say, though, is this. If Junior here is downloading like a big, huge file, okay, like a big, huge game, that's a 1 gigabyte game, the faster he's able to do that, the better off mom and dad are. Okay, you want Junior to download that file as quickly as possible so that the channel is clear so that mom and dad can now use it next. So that is the advantage of having a plan in your house that has a lot of speed, megabits per second. It's not that you get 20 megabits per second, you get 20 megabits per second, you get 20, it doesn't work that way. But rather, if Junior can download that file super duper fast because you're paying for 500 megabits per second, then that means that he's freeing the channel more quickly so that others can use it. And then that, because this is all happening in microseconds, okay, and milliseconds, it makes it feel like this is and the protocol does its job properly, it makes it feel like everybody's able to go super duper fast. It's a really important distinction, Josh.
Yeah, I would say parents, don't tell your kids this though, just in case you're really looking for a reason to get them off their Fortnite streaming. You know, keep this between us, right?
Exactly. I would agree wholeheartedly. So that's really important to note. All right, so let's move on to our next topic then, and that is the modulation schemes. Josh, is this a picture of you skipping stones when you were a boy on Lake Erie?
That's right. We've got a big lake up here, a lot of stones to skip.
Right. Now you've skipped stones before, right?
I have.
And what is the goal of skipping stones?
Well, you find a smooth one and you try to get as many hops as you can in one, right?
Many hops. And I'll tell you what, when I was a kid, I got one, it was like 7 hops. It was like, I was beside myself. It was the most amazing feeling ever on the planet. And I just couldn't believe it. This kid right here doing a pretty good job. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hops right there. It's amazing. Now here's the thing, guys. It's really important to understand what your device is capable of based upon the environment that you're in. Okay, so this guy's out in the environment. And the environment that you're in is basically going to dictate how well or how poorly you're able to transmit and receive from a speed standpoint. And so these are the, you know, the modulation schemes, 64 QAM, 256 QAM, and 1024 QAM, which just came out with 802.11ax. So what does this mean? Well, imagine that I said, hey, Josh, I want you to go and skip rocks out on this lake right here. How do you think you'd do?
Be tough sailing, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Tough sailing. You would not be able to skip rocks. No. On these rocky seas right here, and that's like 64 QAM. So when your device kind of and router kind of detect that we've got rocky seas here, in order to skip anything at all, it's got to kind of step down the modulation scheme. Okay, so this would be like 64 QAM, and you're just not going to be able to go as fast as you think. Just like if you were sailing on a boat, you're just or on a boat, you're not going to be able to go as fast over these rocky seas. Now in the middle of your screen here, this is more like 256 QAM. It's a little more calm. Josh, what do you think of this? How many skips do you think you'd be able to get?
What was your PR, 7?
My PR was 7.
I'd probably get 5 on that.
Okay, 5, not bad. I mean, it's not perfectly smooth, but not bad at all. Now 1024 QAM, in order to achieve those modulation schemes, you're gonna need a lake like this guy.
Like glass.
Yeah, it's gonna be like glass. It's hard to achieve. You need a lot of signal that overcomes any noise, any rocky seas in the environment. But if you were at a 1024 QAM and you had a nice smooth as glass lake like this, do you think that you could beat my PR then?
I would tell you I'd beat it regardless. I did or not.
Outstanding. All right. So that's the point, guys. And so your environment plays a huge role in your capabilities as well. If you have a noisy environment, like you are in a like an apartment building where there's noise all around you, all sorts of Wi-Fi signals around you, you can't expect to go as fast as you think you're going to go. It's like rocky seas. You can't skip stones. All right, it's just a fact. And then finally, guys, what are you paying for? All right, so this is right off of Spectrum. This is what we use in my neighborhood. We don't use WOW. All right, and these are the packages that they sell. Now, the one thing that I want to tell you guys, again, which I think is a little misleading and unfortunate, is that whenever they advertise these internet packages, they never tell you what the upload speeds are. And so I put this little burst on here to kind of remind everybody out there listening that if you want to know what your upload speeds are, you better call, because they're not just going to volunteer it for you, because everything is download, download, download. And I would argue that upload is as important, if not more important today than ever before. When you do a voice video call, just like you and I are doing right here with our audience, when we're talking and our video is that's all upload throughput. And if I have really poor upload throughput, then I'm going to sound choppy and jittery and horrible to our audience, and we don't want that. So that's a raw deal. You need to find out what it is. And a lot of these cable companies, they have very, what I would call, unbalanced links. At my house, I pay for 200 down, only 10 megabits of throughput up. And that's just what the plan is. And it's funny because I just saw a commercial the other day from AT&T Fiber, and they were saying, 10 times faster upload throughput than your cable company. They're offering like 100 down and 100 up, which is amazing, totally awesome. And I would love to get that, but I can't. No, it's not in my area. Nevertheless, now you know the score. You got to know what you're paying for. So for instance, there is 100 megabits per second. Okay, this is 400 megabits per second. Now the reason why this is so important is because what did we just say a moment ago with regards to the channel that you're on and the capabilities of your computer? In many cases, if you have a 2x2 device and you have an 80 megahertz wide channel and you have 802.11x protocol, you can't go 940 megabits per second. You can't even do it. And so you think that you're going to spend all of this money and get this plan because you've been sucked in from the spin, okay? And then your device is not even capable of going that fast, okay? The max that you can go is like, 866 megabits per second theoretical. And then again, what I always do is I just cut that in half, and it kind of gives me in reality what I could probably expect to achieve. All right, we're here. Let's go shopping, Josh. You ready?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is that we're going to just look at a few examples of routers, and we're going to talk about them from the standpoint of what their capabilities are, and then match that against what our device is. And you and I are both on these Lenovo's that are 2x2 two-stream devices. Okay. So here we go. This is our first one up for bid. So this is just your basic, simple router. Okay, as you can see, not very expensive. And let's pick apart what we see here in terms of the language. This, first of all, says dual band Wi-Fi 5 router. Josh, do you know what that means?
It's got 2 bands and it works on Wi-Fi 5.
That's right. No, let me be more specific, because I'll tell you what, this nomenclature is very confusing to people out there. So let's unlock it for us. Dual band means that it's capable of going on the 2.4 as well as the 5 gigahertz network. Okay. Wi-Fi 5 is a new name for the 802.11 AC protocol. And not only that, but you can see what Netgear did right here. They actually used the letters AC in their model number in order to specify that. So it says AC here, Wi-Fi 5 here, they mean the same thing. When you see the number associated with the model, AC 1000, they are typically giving you clues as to about how fast this thing can go, which 1,000 megabits per second, a gigabit, okay, connection. Okay, so what you would do is you would look at that and say, oh wow, that can go about that fast. Now, once again, they're using the widest channel, 160 megabits per, or 160 megahertz wide channel. What else? They're also assuming that you are QAM 256, which is the Calm Lake in the middle, in order to achieve those speeds. If that's not reality for you, if you're not going to use 160 megahertz wide channel, if you don't have Calm Seas, then you're not realistically going to achieve those speeds. The other thing that I would say is this, guys. this is just the router. You still need a modem, okay? And if you don't get the modem from your cable company, then you need to go out and buy a modem, okay? And you can see what the modems cost, either, you know, $70, $90,
right.
Or you can go the route of getting a 2-for-1. And mostly that's what you see today from your cable companies, is that they will build the modem in with the router, so it's just one box that you need in your house. You see that a lot these days. Okay, and that's what you see right here. All right, so this dual band, same thing, 2.4 and 5, AC 1200, and again, look to the number right here in order to give you an idea of approximately how fast they're saying it could go. But you must keep in mind that they're using the max 160 megahertz wide channel. And because it's AC, the maximum is the 256 QAM modulation scheme, okay? And it's only 2 antennas, which means that it's 2 streams, 2 streams. Now you have a 2-stream device, I have a 2-stream device, and realistically, my 2 streams can talk to the 2 streams on that right there, and that's perfectly fine.
Plenty fast, right?
Yeah, it's plenty fast, it's perfectly fine. I only pay for 200 megabits per second. So this router, which is AC 1200, which can go, let's just say, you know, which is capable of going approximately a gigabit per second, would you say that this is probably all I need?
And then some.
Yeah, yeah. All right, but no, nevertheless, people feel like they need to go hog wild and they need to spend tons of money on these crazy capabilities like I'm about to show you. But just keep that in mind. So look at this guy right here. Okay, so here's a crazy guy, and I'll tell you what, people, they buy these things just because they look cool.
I'd be tempted. Cool looking.
Right. Now check this out from Asus. It says AX 5400. AX is Wi-Fi 6. They're also telling you Wi-Fi 6 right here, Wi-Fi 6. Okay, gaming router, what is that supposed to mean? Okay, gaming router typically means that they have another radio inside the router here, another radio in the router, which is a 5 gigahertz radio, which a gamer can use just dedicated to them. It'll have usually two radios inside these types of routers. Okay, one is a dual band that can switch back and forth between 2, 4, and 5. That is good for mom and dad and your baby sister. And then you can hop on the 5 gigahertz radio and be all by yourself on that separate radio. Okay, so that you can do your gaming, your Fortnite. Okay. Now, once again here, 5400, what they're saying is that this thing should be able to go 5,400 megabits per second. Okay, now it's AX. This is 1024 QAM, which is the glass smooth lake, and it's 160 megahertz wide channel, which nobody uses. Okay, so it's misleading. All right, so when you see those numbers and when it says on the box capable of going 5 gigabits per second, it's just not going to happen. Not going to happen. I keep misspeaking. I say 5,400 megabits per second. I mean, it's 5.4 gigabits per second. It's crazy. Do you remember what I pay for?
200.
Exactly. I pay for 200. All right, next. So the other thing that was interesting is that last thing said mesh. Did you see this? Let's go back.
I did.
It said mesh. That confused me because when I think of mesh, I think of something like this.
You need another unit, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You need another unit in order to create the mesh.
Right.
So don't be misled. Okay, with these mesh systems, what you do is you put these little base stations all around your house, and the idea is that they can you would basically then be able to roam from one to the other, okay, and it creates this blanket of coverage for you all over, a 5 gigahertz coverage all over your house. It's not necessarily designed to give you the greatest speeds in the world, like what we were just looking at, but it is designed to help give you the best coverage. Okay, again, by strategically placing these things around your home. Now, you can see here, it says AX 1800, okay, Wi-Fi 6. Remember, Wi-Fi 6 and AX, they mean the same thing. 1800 is an indication of the maximum speeds that you can get on a 160 megahertz wide channel, which nobody uses. So you would automatically cut that in half, right? But what you might say to yourself is, well, you know what? I mean, I don't need any more than that. What's half of 1800? 900? Yeah. Okay. Can I go 900 megabits per second in my house, Josh?
No, no, you can't.
No, I can wish and pray all I want, never gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to our next one here. This one's more expensive, okay? And the reason why is because this one is an AX4200,
Tri-band mesh.
okay? And it says tri-band mesh, and that's very, it's very misleading. And the reason why is because, these days when you think of tri-band, you might be thinking, maybe it's got a 6 gigahertz radio in it.
Right.
But this one does not. Tri-band in this, it's kind of like what we saw a moment ago. It means that it has 2 radios in it. One of them can be 2.4 or 5, and the other one is dedicated to 5. Okay, and in this case, all right, when they say tri-band mesh, they're talking about how there's like a back channel, which is like your uplink, it's like connected to the internet on one channel, and then everybody else can use a different channel. And I'm a big fan of that, by the way. And the reason why is because that's like having 2 lanes in your highway for everybody to use when you've got 2 radios, 2 channels like that, as opposed to when you have a mesh network and they're all on the same channel in the house,
Right.
Everybody's sharing the same lane on the highway. Okay, so you run the risk of congestion like rush hour traffic. Yeah,
Right.
bumper to bumper. Ooh, look at this guy.
The Nighthawk.
The Nighthawk, that is
What a
slick.
name.
Would you be tempted to buy something like
Yeah,
that?
naturally. Look at it.
Oh my gosh, it's so sharp. All right, let's look at the Nighthawk, everyone. So this one, it says 8 stream. That means it's got 8 antennas. It's like got all these tentacles, and what they do is they hide the 8 antennas. You've seen these spiders, but they hide the 8 antennas inside the wings so that they can call it Nighthawk. I love it.
Works for me.
So 8 stream, tri-band, Wi-Fi 6 router. Wi-Fi 6 means 802.11ax. Okay, check this out. It says capable of 6.6 gigabits per second. That is really misleading. That is really, really misleading. First of all, is there any way on God's green earth that my device could ever go 6.6 gigabits per second? No, because I have a 2-stream device, just like what we just said. Okay, I would need to have an 8-stream device, an 8-stream laptop in order to do that. That doesn't exist. All right. Also, I would need to be use 160 megahertz wide channel. Never going to happen. And not only that, but what's the third thing? The modulation.
Yeah.
1024 QAM. My environment is not perfect, so there's no way that I could realistically achieve these speeds. I don't have a smooth glass for a lake of in my house. All right, so let's take a look at this. How do they get to 6.6 gigabits per second? Okay, so let's take a look. Once again, I go to mcsindex.com, and look, I go over here to the left where it says Spatial Streams, 8 spatial streams, and then you go over here. So this is if I had 802.11 AC on a 160 megahertz wide channel. Here's where you can see the data rates. Okay, this is where they come up with like the 6.6 gigabits per second. They're just kind of doing some rounding here. Now look over here, AX. So this is and that's what it is. It's an AX 160 megahertz wide channel using 8 streams. Okay, and actually they're not showing that they're using 1024 QAM. Okay, you can see here I've circled 6533.3. That's probably what they are indicating when they say 6.6 gigabits per second. Okay, once again, I will tell you, don't get all excited when you see 6.6 gigabits per second. There is no way on this earth that you're going that fast. Okay, you would need a device that's capable of going that fast. You need to be using a channel that you're never going to configure. Okay, and once again, you would have to be in an environment that's like it's like hermetically sealed. Okay.
Hermetically sealed.
Exactly. All right, here's the next one we're going to show you. This is really interesting. Look how expensive this is. Can you think of why this is so expensive?
It's another Nighthawk.
It's another Nighthawk, and this one says
10.8 gigs.
10.8 gigs, totally misleading because what they're doing is they're actually taking the 2 radios inside of it and like combining them together. You can't do that.
Right.
Nobody can like be on 2 radios at the same time.
Right.
It's impossible. So for them to say this is capable of going 10.8 gigabits per second is completely and totally misleading. What are we going to do? Now you know the score. All right, check this out. Tri-band Wi-Fi 6E router. Do you know what Wi-Fi 6E means, Josh?
I don't off the top of my head.
Okay, so what happened is is the Wi-Fi or the FCC last year, they basically opened up a whole new highway. So 2.4 highway, basically a 3-lane highway. 5 gigahertz highway, that's basically like a 24-lane highway. Okay, everybody can spread out and go fast. It's starting to get a little crowded though.
It is.
It's starting to get congested. The FCC actually opened up a whole new highway, the 6 gigahertz highway. I mean, we're talking almost 60 lanes on this highway to use 20 megahertz wide channels. It's incredible.
So the difference, Wi-Fi 6 was for the MU-MIMO stuff.
That's right.
And then 6E is just opening the 6 gigahertz band for them to use.
That's right. Okay. So if you have a computer that's Wi-Fi 6, it cannot magically start transmitting and receiving on Wi-Fi 6E, which is a whole new frequency band of spectrum. All right. So don't get snookered.
That's a good one.
All right. So what's going to happen is that in order for you to take advantage of this new 59-lane highway, you're going to need to get a new computer. And that computer needs to have a Wi-Fi 6E adapter in it. And it has to communicate with a router that has Wi-Fi 6E capability, which is what we're seeing on the screen right here. Okay, and you can see how expensive it is, $600.
Yeah.
Okay, buying this would do you no good whatsoever unless you had a 6 gigahertz radio in your laptop computer,
Right.
and you don't.
There's not a lot of those.
No, not yet, but they're coming. They're coming. I'd say by Christmas, this is gonna, get big. So be on the lookout. If you're looking to get a new computer, I think that by the end for Christmas, I think that you should get a new computer that has Wi-Fi 6E. Okay,
It's
so
on my list.
okay, so it has the ability to not only be on the latest and greatest protocol,
Mhm.
which is 802.11ax, but it also has a new radio in it. Okay, and in this case, in my opinion, it does make sense to call it tri-band. Okay, it does make sense to call it tri-band. The other one did not make sense to call it tri-band.
6E, correct.
Right. There you go, guys. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of information in a short period of time. I hope that that was made clear. Be careful when you're out there recommending what kind of home router you're going to buy for people. Again, you do not need to get the most expensive. If you know that your colleague has a 2x2 computer because they're, you're a Lenovo shop or a Dell shop or whatever it is, then you can get away with offering something, a little less expensive, and you don't have to go all out. You can tell your customers that the data rates that are advertised on the boxes of these things are theoretical. They are not reality. And not only that, they're not only theoretical, but they are also based upon perfect, crazy conditions that just aren't real, that aren't realistic.
They're made in a lab.
Made in a lab, exactly. All right, so now you know the score. Josh, I wanted to turn to you and see if maybe there was a question or two out there.
I'm looking through here. Give me 1 second because the screen is a touch small. There was a few. Here we go. So if an AP is 4x4 and is communicating with a 2x2 client, do you not benefit from the 4 AP antennas because of maximal ratio combining, or MRC? That comes from Olivier.
You know what? I don't know.
Olivier, we'll get back to you on that one. That's a great question.
I would have to refer to my colleague and expert, Jim Vada, in order to answer that question.
Another question comes in from Steve Steinbrod. Steve asks, what's the best way to avoid channel overlap?
Oof. The best way to avoid channel, well, there's a couple ways. One is, you could say, well, don't use 80 megahertz wide channels because you increase the likelihood of channel overlap when you have 80 megahertz wide channels. However, you really don't know unless you can see. When you can see, like for instance, if like I have Mobileye on my computer and I can just fire it up and I can take a look and see, oh, wow, there's 80 megahertz channels over here and there's 40 megahertz channels over there. And so what you do is, if you can't tell people, hey, stop doing that because you're hogging all the spectrum, you basically see the picture so that you can avoid it. Okay. So you need a tool that's going to help you avoid it. That's, for instance, we use Mobileye in order to do that on our computers. So you want to avoid those, because you can't just knock on somebody's door and say, hey, reconfigure your router.
I've tried. Don't do it.
Doesn't work so well. All right, they look at you funny.
We'll end on this question, Eric, if you don't mind, from Jeff. And it would be, your perfect AP for mostly 2 devices at a time, just Jeff and his wife. And let's assume, just for the sake of the experiment, that they're both 2x2 laptops.
Okay.
So what would you kind of suggest is the perfect router choice for them? How would you define it, at least? You
Sure.
have to give a brand.
Well, first of all, it depends on whether or not you are, you have your own modem.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have your own modem, then you would definitely want to buy one that is the router and motor combined.
Mm-hmm.
And if you both have 2x2 devices, again, I would ask Jeff, what are you paying for? Are you paying, do you have a 100 megabit per second plan? Do you have a 500 megabit per second plan? Let's just say that, most normal people like Jeff and his lovely wife out there have just a normal 100 or 200 megabit per second plan that they're getting from their cable company, from their ISP. If that's the case, then the router that we showed you originally, that's just a 2-stream router. It's just got 2 antennas and has the ability to go, I would definitely make sure it's Wi-Fi 6, 802.11ax, because even though your computer might be AC, you might upgrade your computer one day.
Future-proof yourself.
You future-proof yourself a little bit, and you would, and then you would have an AC computer that can take advantage of those higher data rates that are available to us. So I would highly recommend that. And so you don't have to spend a lot of money. $150, and you should be able to get a 2-stream router that's capable of going anywhere between 500 to 1,000 megabits per second, and that's all you need.
And I think that kind of concludes our questions, Eric. Thanks for diving into those, folks. If there's any questions we haven't answered yet, your 7Signal sales rep or account manager will be sure to send you a follow-up email this week. We appreciate all your time, Eric. Great presentation as always. I came away smarter. I'm sure the folks did here. Look for communications for next week's webinar from Don Cook coming out shortly. Again, we appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you all next time around. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you being here. Take care and have a great one.